Hi, Zechariah Jackson, BASA News. I'm here in Orange, New Jersey. I was originally going to meet in East Orange, but I felt that this surrounding is big open place, Orange Park. Everybody know Orange Park?
Yeah.
I'm sitting here with Brittany. How you pronounce your last name?
Claybrooks.
Claybrooks. Okay,
Yeah.
okay. Brittany. And you're running for Congressman Payne's seat?
Yes. Yes.
The absent seat of Congress. Of course, we decided that he passed away.
Yes.
And you knew Congressman Payne?
I did.
Okay.
I did.
Okay.
He was a very special friend of mine and mentor. I met him when I was a Congressional Black Caucus Foundation Emerging Leaders intern on the House floor. I was assigned Nancy Pelosi's office in the cloakroom, where it's a very secure place.
Yes.
And it's a place where the members can go before they vote and before meetings.
So you met,
to prepare.
You met Nancy?
I worked for her.
You worked for her, okay.
Yes. I worked for her at the time. Right after college, I applied for the internship and fellowship. And I originally applied for a member office for Congressman Conyers office at the time. But I was blessed, to have an extensive career for a young lady my age. And so there's a saying that when you ask God for what you want,
sure,
He blesses you over and beyond. And
sure,
so at that time I became the second young lady in the internship cohort or an internship program to have served in that position in the program.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And you said that Congressman Payne, you said earlier, before we got on the air, that he would be surprised if you run,
He's not surprised. He would always say, it was a funny thing that he and I used to say, which is, Councilwoman Claybrooks and I are dear friends, but the contents of our friendship we cannot share because the cloakroom is a very, very secure place and it's a safe space for members to go and strategize and prepare for the very important work they must do on the House floor.
Well, okay, for the lay people, we vote. I remember I tried to get a few assembly people in.
Yeah.
To actually explain what job do they actually do. So I'm going to ask you right here, what exactly do the congressperson do? Because you'd be congresswoman, not congressman.
For the lay people. So what's funny, and that's why civic education is so important.
Yes.
I like to explain it like this.
Okay.
So there's 3 branches of government at every level: the local, the county, the state, and then the federal. And I like to talk about Congress as being somewhat of the federal city council.
Okay.
They are to, legislate, make laws, Congress and Senate, as well as approve and appropriate the budget.
Okay.
And then also,
is that the budget for the state or for the budget
for the nation?
For the whole nation? Oh,
the entire nation. And then finally, they are to investigate in the instance that there is some administrative oversight. They investigate agencies. The same thing locally where your city council person may, every year they have to pass a budget.
Sure.
Every year they have to, legislate, make laws. So everything that we do, particularly locally, comes from a city council, an elected legislative body.
Okay.
And then every year in every meeting, they have to make sure that the agencies that report to their committees, recreation, housing and economic development, the grants, land use, they control how the land is used. And so essentially that's what federal representatives do. And I believe that there's this disconnect between the federal government and what it means for everyday folks.
Sure.
But in fact, they are making laws and passing legislation and, appropriating money and investing in agencies and efforts and initiatives that impact our everyday lives. Granted, it has a couple of, steps it has to go to before it gets to us, but that's exactly what they do.
Years before.
Yeah, yeah, or a couple of, you have to funnel it down to the state, and then the state decides if they want to give it to counties or they want to give it to cities. In New Jersey, we happen to be a hyper-localized place, and so municipalities are very strong here in New Jersey, unlike a lot of other places.
Yes. And so, all right, so what do you bring to the table for us? I guess you kind of self-explained from your position of working down. but you know, tell us something, you know, that you think that need to be done that you can do.
You know what? So let me just start by saying I have the privilege of being in this race with some incredible people.
Yes, there are.
There are some incredible people and some extremely experienced people in
Yes,
this race.
yes.
However, what I do want to stress is that I do believe that, you know, particularly in Congress right now, we're seeing a disconnect between what people need and what is taking place. And it's a lot of infighting and a lot of polarized,
A lot of bickering going
you
on.
know, extreme
Backbiting.
ends. Right. There's a lot of extremism happening right now. And oftentimes what we associate with new and young, we associate with extreme. Very rarely are we associating new, fresh ideas with experience.
Sure.
And so while I am fresh, I am a millennial woman, I am an experienced woman. I have a 14-year public service career.
Okay.
And it's important for me to begin to understand what is happening in the district.
Sure.
And go prepared to stand on that very serious business.
'Cause you were a councilwoman in East Orange.
Yes, I was.
Okay.
Yes, I was. And while I was a councilwoman, that is when I got elected and I took seat at the height of the pandemic. I was sworn in on January 1st,
2020.
2020. By March, we were going home with our laptops. And it was at that time where I recognized that the federal government didn't have a problem, federal, state, or local government didn't have a problem responding in the state of a crisis. And so what we found out as I managed the federal grants, as I created emergency relief programs, as I helped create the reopening of businesses and how we were going to dine outside, as I managed federal funding in Plainfield and East Orange,
Yes.
what I learned is that there are three things that we ought to have taken away from that. One, we've been needing the federal government to step in overwhelmingly.
Without a doubt.
And now that, oh wow,
Sorry about that.
it's okay. And now that,
Camera.
yeah, it's okay. Got a young man playing soccer. That's
Yeah,
what
they're
this is
playing
about.
soccer and the ball was headed just
Yeah.
for the people out there. The ball was headed towards the camera, and I was trying to.
Yes, it's totally fine. And now that we are out of the pandemic, that doesn't mean that we don't need the federal government to continue to step in for us. Every major turn that happened in society happened with a federal decision.
Yes.
And throughout my career, my experience has been reform. Every single job, every single position I played, it always happened at a time where reform was necessary.
Yes.
And so one of the things that I'll offer is, you know, my ability and my preparation to begin to start to reform, given where we are in history right now.
Brittany, let me ask you that. Since you did bring up the federal government, what is it about people that seem to be this stigma that they don't want the federal government involved in things? What is that all about?
Well, I don't think it's that people don't want the federal government involved. I don't think they want the federal government as it is to be involved. And there's no way that the federal government can't be involved. I'll give you an example. Currently, there was some legislation or an effort in Congress to begin to protect the cybersecurity of people who are on food stamps and public benefits.
Okay.
And what we see locally is that rarely are you able to go into a store or a bank and pull out your cash assistance on your, you know, your EBT card, right, without paying an additional fee. And so
they charge the welfare people a fee?
There's a fee. Whenever you go to an ATM where, in a bank that's not, or on an ATM that's not associated with a bank, there's usually a fee attached to that.
Okay.
But if I'm on a fixed income, that $2 or $3 may put a dent in what my monthly, you know, amount is, right? So I have to pay to get money that is allotted to me out when I may not. There may be the difference between making a bill or something like that. In addition to the fact that these accounts have been being hacked more easily, and so there was much more investment placed. The federal government decided that they would invest in creating better security for people who are on public assistance. And so if people are unsure about how the federal government plays in our everyday lives, that is one of the very few examples of why it's important that we send people to Congress who are thinking not only about the high level top line, tagline statements that they can make, but about the real granular and intricate change that they can actually make and things they can do with legislation, the power they have to affect people every day.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
and you bring in experience, energy, because there's about, I believe it's about 9 people running for this seat.
Something like that.
Yeah.
There's something like that. Something like that, somewhere in there.
Some already have positions,
Correct.
and but you've been there, done that with that position.
Been there, done it, and I've never been impressed by. We're seeing this sense of celebrityism that's coming along with public service.
Oh yes.
And I've never been impressed by it. By the time I was 25, I had been in a room with President Obama. I had advocated for Medicaid expansion for conservative states like Virginia, who left so many people in the Medicaid gap in their Republican legislature, was playing games and not wanting to pass that particular piece of the bill. I was in Florida marching on behalf of Trayvon Martin, protesting my Republican governor at the time, while I had a Democratic state appointed job. And so,
That's different.
Correct. And so, to me, I never wanted to be so moved by the position that I forgot about people. And I think that's what we're starting to see. And I think God allowed me to have those positions, even as a woman who, both of my parents were incarcerated from the time I was 3 to 16. So, and I was in foster care, and I grew up with all of the things that people associate with a lifestyle like that. And the statistics say that less than 4% of us are supposed to make it. And I'm somewhere in that percentage.
Yes.
And so I never forgot about what it meant to really do this job. If I was going to drop out of college on the medical track and go the public service route in college, then I surely wasn't going to take that opportunity for granted.
Well, before I come to talk today, I seen an article, a video article on homeless in Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a man that wanted to do something about it, and he did. He took his project to, I believe, Georgia Tech. I think it was one of the universities out there. Mm-hmm. And they built a bus that actually had washing machines in it, and showers and things of that nature to help the homeless, because this could be me, and that was his. He said, I gave them the plans, and they followed through. The college student built the bus and everything else. I think it was Georgia Tech. I could be wrong, but one of the schools down in Georgia. What would you do for the homeless? Because it seems that we're starting to see record competition.
Yes, and we know that the rising population of our brothers and sisters without addresses, as I call them.
That's a good way to put it.
The rise, you can use it. It's an accepted term. The rising, percentage of those folks are seniors.
Yes.
And some of our most vulnerable people, in addition to children.
Yes.
And as we know, given the economy that we live in, a lot of us are maybe 2 or 3 paychecks away from it ourselves.
Yes.
And so one of the first things that I would do is begin to address the way in which HUD, invests. One of the things, there was a letter that was signed back in between 2021 and now of plenty of Congress people, and the New Jersey delegation is a part of that, because we know that housing is a real crisis in New Jersey, that called for HUD to invest more money in its home programs, because we had not seen before COVID an investment in the amount of money that HUD, put, or the legislature had dedicated to the home program. Because what we know about our federal grants or our federal allocations is that they enable local municipalities to begin to build housing or begin to provide gap funding for housing. I've done it myself as a councilwoman, where I've had to approve gap funding for our housing authority to begin to build a housing project and they may be a couple $100,000 short.
Sure.
And so when we have that kind of carrying on and discourse going on in Congress, we don't have time to play those kind of games. And then following that, we need to also invest in staff and case managers who will work with municipalities, because another issue that I found is not only are the municipal governments, particularly around here, not only are they not being good stewards over their allocations, we also need representatives that are dedicated to keeping up with us, not just when we're about to go in default, but throughout the course of our allocation and our grant. When we're doing that work and we're not turning in something, how about we know 6 months before the city council is finding out, oh wow, we're about to go in default, we're about to lose X amount of millions of dollars. And so having that experience has helped shape my opinion about what HUD should and should not be doing. Former Congresswoman and former Secretary Marsha Fudge is very familiar with my face, and I've had conversations with her, and I commended her on the work that she did while she was there, because we saw a lot of assistance to our municipalities at that time under her leadership and Joe Biden's leadership.
Well, okay, a little flip from this, what we're talking about too. I guess we're still in the same area.
Mm-hmm.
There was a guy in New York that was running, I think, for governor or president.
Okay.
He said he had a party called "The Rent Is Too Damn High."
Yeah.
So
the rent is high.
And even Governor Mario Cuomo said, as he was running his son, Junior, he said the rent is too damn high over here. So what can we do to put a cap? Because I'm looking at apartments now and looking and seeing there, my God, I mean, the prices just keep rising, So what is there anything we can do to cap that?
You can't. Well, what I don't want to do is pander, because a lot of people use it's a tool. When they say rental cap, when they say words like mandatory inclusionary zoning, which there's a large city in our district that really touts that as a victory, and there's a lot of cities across the United States that are touting that. The thing is, you have to be very, very careful when you are inside of cities that where this is happening, in cities that where people are in poverty.
Sure.
Because one of the things you cannot do is concentrate poverty. And when people hear things like affordable housing, you have folks in suburbs and other places that say, that means that our town won't be valuable. One, that's not true.
Yes.
But two, we have, where I live, there's a cap on how much you can increase the rent annually.
Okay.
And that helped me when I was a grad student, because
Sure.
I paid. I was not paying a whole lot when I left. But the real issue that I'm finding in a district like ours, where you have a lot of older infrastructure,
Sure.
rental properties that are already existing have to also be kept up. And we have to create laws that give value and understand the fact that people who are living in existing units also should be living clean. They should be living in good, healthy situations regardless of their ability to pay. Because what you'll really find is that people who live in existing units stay there because that's where they can afford. Their largest issue is the conditions in which the property is living and being kept. And so that is one approach that we need to begin to work on in New Jersey, right? We fought for that when I was on city council. The second thing is creating better pathways for people to be able to afford home ownership. Because it is not my intention for those who want to own not to have access to the ability to own a house. Because for a lot of people, that's the first entry point, and that's that point of entry into generational wealth.
Sure.
And so we have to begin to also support and create like investment in first generation and first time home buyer programs, which a lot of the cities that we represent around here, which they have. It's about getting the word out. It's about who is allowed to have access to that program, under what is the income range, and then holding landlords accountable in addition to inclusionary zoning and rental caps. There's a multi-tiered approach that has to go into people being able to afford their housing. And I think in people's, sometimes politicians get caught up in saying the right things, and if you ask them what they actually do, they probably can't tell you what to do. You know, and then if you ask them, well, where's the money coming from? You know, they'll tell you, look, I don't really know where is the funding program. And then you have some leaders who will tell you that flat out they don't want it in their municipalities at all, and that all people who need affordable living should be concentrated in one area, and they're not doing their fair share of housing people, which if you have a high demand and a low supply, then it drives costs up. That's economics. That's basic economics. And so what are our surrounding, more wealthier towns doing about their fair share? Well, the New Jersey, legislature has sought to do something about that. But given how competitive the credits are in the state,
yes,
we have to go to the federal level and demand that New Jersey gets its fair share, even if we have to start to change some of these federal formulas around.
Well, we look forward to you in Congressman Payne's seat. So what?
I appreciate
that. What day? And,
God willing.
When is the election?
So the election day for the special election is July 16th. So in the Democratic primary, we need people to turn out for July 16th. And then following that, it'll be September 18th. And then I'm going to call on the party to do a fair and open process for who will receive the nomination in November, because that is something we also have to address, the democratic privilege that we have and how much we're taking our democratic privilege for granted, which is going to leave us susceptible to another party that we ain't seen in a long time in New Jersey. We don't want to talk about that, but it's true, and maybe we'll do a part 2 about that.
We want to keep the D's alive.
Keep the Democratic leadership alive.
Yeah.
We depend on
the DNC.
Yes, we depend on, this nation depends on New Jersey.
Yes.
In times of bipartisan turmoil in this country. Could you imagine what it'll be like if we keep letting our selfish interests get in the way of that? My Lord. We'll have more than just one president we'll be worried about. We'll have a few consecutive ones.
So June 16th is the election day?
Yes. No, July 16th.
July 16th.
16th.
July 16th. Okay.
July 16th.
And tell the people how to vote, or what is there a
So,
column that you're on?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
In Hudson County, I am column 1H, stands for One Hudson, Brittany Claybrooks. In Union County, I am column F. I like to call that the Freedom column, Brittany Claybrooks. And if you want to be great, circle column 8, or circle number 8 for Brittany Claybrooks in Essex County.
All right, then 16th is the date.
16th. Thank you so much.
Is that a Tuesday?
It is a Tuesday.
Okay. Well, Zechariah Jackson, we look forward to voting on the 16th.
Thank you so much.
Bye.